Today on the Eye of Power podcast, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to walk you through a PowerPoint presentation, and it is entitled Mentoring as a Strategic Asset. The presentation is meant to give you a good guide as to how to mentor effectively, but more importantly, how to institute the practice of mentoring in your team and in your culture of your organization, and do so in a way that's going to persist and really elevate the culture, something that's very important to the 21st century as time goes on. So buckle up. It's going to be an informative episode.
Welcome to the Eye of Power podcast. I'm your host, Tom Dardick. But this podcast is not about me. It's about you and your power. It's time to claim yours.
Okay, I'll go fairly quickly through this. So if you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate to reach out. But mentoring as a strategic asset is a concept that shouldn't be too strange to people, but it's not something that is generally done at scale because, well, it's not that easy. So that's what we're here at the Mentor Machine to do, is to put in systems in place that make it so that it is something that we can actually do and sustain. So let's start with what mentoring is. When I ask people what they think mentoring is, they'll say a lot of different things. They might say that it's teaching. They might say that it's training. They might say that it's coaching. But really, mentoring is something that's a little bit beyond that. Those might be components of it. But mentoring is not just about adding knowledge. It's really about becoming a more fully expressed version of yourself through relationship. And so we want to distinguish mentoring from other modalities. Teaching is transfer of knowledge, it's focused on content. It might be a short-term thing. It can be one to many. It could be one-on-one, of course, too. But training then is focused on skills, and we want to learn a particular task or a particular thing that we're going to do. That's instructor-learner dynamic. Coaching is to improve execution and performance. It's focused on hitting goals or having something that's in the near-term timeline, and it's usually a coach client. And then mentoring is a different, because it's really developing the person, and it really gets down to the deeper parts of potential, meaning, identity, and it's over a longer period of time. And this is person to person. And really, this is our definition of mentoring. It's growth through relationship. And it's a process by which a person helps another person evolve, again, into the more fully expressed version of themselves. I kind of hinted at it earlier. We're going to be focusing on how you do this in an organization. Obviously, you can find a mentor as a person and have that one-on-one relationship. But what we're going to be focusing on really is how we do mentoring as a matter of our course of doing business. And so we create a mentoring culture. And just to spend a couple moments on the importance of it. We've talked about it a lot. You've seen it. You've seen the changes that we're in the middle of, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. We're talking about automation, globalization, hybrid and remote work, all of these pressures that change the dynamic of how we relate and function as a team. And so one of the best ways to create that sense of shared mission and nurture it is to be in the human development space, so that organizations that do that well are going to have a tremendous competitive edge. Doing so doesn't mean they just retain talent. They actually compound it. In other words, they manufacture talent. And it's really maturing a culture, and it's instilling the values and wisdom and capacities, and making sure that we have very strong relationships among the team. I already said, in terms of the hybrid and diverse and fast moving cultures, this is the social technology that keeps people connected and growing. Mentoring is not really a soft skill. It's a system through which an organization becomes self-improving. It's something that shows us that we are really committed to being better tomorrow than we are today. Just to clarify a little further, managers have we've talked a little bit about this in the past few episodes about the pressures on managers. Right now, that's getting, if anything, worse than and not getting any easier. I don't expect it to get any easier anytime soon. And let's just make some distinctions here. If we're focused on tasks, if we're focused on you do it because I say, and I'm telling you what to do, and we're doing our KPIs and we're doing our reviews and hitting our marks, that's all within the framework of managing. Mentoring's distinct from that because we're focused on a long-term development. It's really what are we doing together in terms of a relationship, less related to the shared mission and more towards the personal objectives and missions of that person. And so we're talking it through and we're really trying to learn from each other because if you want to learn something, right, teach it. If you want to grow as a person, help another person grow. And so the mentor benefits from the relationship. In some cases, they'll say even more than the mentee, but let's just say that it's a mutual process. I'm going to ask you a couple questions here. Aren't we all a little bit nuts? Aren't we all a little bit crazy? We think things that aren't true. I'm always surprised at the percentage of people that believe in things like flat Earth or the faked moon landing or 9/11 being an inside job or conspiracy of the day. But it doesn't even have to be those big things. It can be things in our own lives where we believe that if I step on a crack, something will happen. I always do this particular ritual on a particular day to make a particular result. I uh, have all kinds of superstitions or things that I think will affect an outcome. Um, and whether or not it's empirically true is a secondary consideration, right? We believe it because it makes us feel good, like it makes us think we can make a difference, even in cases where we can't. So we aren't rational, really all that rational creatures. We're a little bit crazy, and we can do foolish things. And at the same time, don't we all have moments of genius? Don't we all have times where I cannot believe I did that? So we can say that I can't believe I did that, both for the stupid things we do as well as the amazing things we do. Really, we are all both amazing and silly, and it just depends how you catch us. And so I'm saying all this because mentoring is really seeing the brilliance in people and nurturing more of that. It's seeing the genius, it's seeing the unique talent, it's adding logs to the fire of that person's innate attributes and helping them see that more clearly. So, how do we do this at scale? How do we consistently have mentors, mentees that grow together, that improve relationships and transform culture? Well, we've got to have a system. If you just leave it up to individuals, it will be as it is now. So, that's what we're going to talk about for the bulk of our episode today, the growth mentoring framework. The growth framework is just a mnemonic that helps you remember things to keep in mind as you seek mentoring and mentee relationships. So let's get into it. The G for growth is the grounding. So we want to make sure that we are on a level playing field, that our expectations match, that we know that we've got a safe place that I can share openly without worry that it's going to come back to bite me, things like that. But it's a little bit more than that too, because the mentoring relationship is a special one. Like I said, it's growth relationship and it could involve teaching, training, and coaching, but it's something a little bit different than that because in the mentor machine, we really have three basic standards that people have to hit in order to be what we call a certified mentor. And so the first standard is you have to have something that the mentee wants. You've got to have some knowledge, insight, experience, something that they can look at you and say, well, if she did that, then maybe I can too. Or if she's got my back, maybe it's not so foolish for me to try. Things like that. So we need to be able to inspire and stand for something there. And that might just be going first. The other thing is we have to be rooting for the person. We have to be on their side, not just in what we would want if we were them, but in terms that matter to them and their currency. And then finally, we have to have some sort of understanding about human nature and how to get people when they're stuck on a sandbar to help them get off of that so they can make the positive change that they desire. Now, something else that in the growth framework is each one of these 6 elements has a dynamic that we have to pay attention to. And this is where the skill of the mentor comes in, where we have to understand there's 2 polarities, and we have to make sure we're not too far on one side or the other. So in this case, in the grounding piece of mentoring, we want to balance investment in the person, investment in their outcomes, with detachment. And so overinvestment can make us too much responsibility. We can give too many answers. We can try to fix problems. We can try to shortcut their learning process by, giving them things the easy way. We can feel a certain way about the relationship, and if it does not go the way we want it, it can be might even turn negative. So that's the problem with overinvestment. And then if we're too detached, we're not. They don't feel like the mentee may not feel supported. They get encouragement, but it's sort of vague, and they feel like maybe we don't care enough. So we need to find that balance in the middle, that grounded balance, which is we are able to offer accountability and ownership. We're able to ask questions that clarify and empower, and that we can be calm and but also have compassion and enough engagement that we're actually curious about things and ask high quality questions. The next element of excellent mentoring is the R for role. And that means clarification of what the role of the mentor is. So the mentor can act as a mirror. So you can help the person see their blind spots. Mentor can act as a bridge, a way for the person to see, okay, I'm stuck here. This person can help me get across this field of landmines and get me safely to the other side. And then they feel like they have a guide. They feel like they have somebody on their side, so they'll actually take the steps. So, in order to do those things well, to mirror, bridge, guide, there's a few things that we need to remember and get good at skill wise. First thing is we need to be present. We need to be able to be focused on that person, which makes sense when you say it, but unfortunately, not. We don't all have the habits that allow us to do that best. That means we're not on the phone, we're not on our computer, we're not taking calls, we're not uh, just thinking about the next meeting, the next conversation, what we might be doing that night. We're 100% focused on the other person. The way that we do that best is that we practice active listening. And just to remind you, we've done episodes on active listening before, talk about it often because it's so important. But in conversations, if you want the other person to get the most out of the conversation and you want to get the most out of the conversation, the way we connect to other people the most is by trying to help them articulate and therefore us understand precisely what it is that they're trying to communicate. And active listening is making that our goal. So that means we aren't thinking about what we're going to say next, what we think about what they're saying, but rather we're trying to help them clarify precisely what they mean. So that means we are clarifying their statements, drilling down, focused 100% on what it is that they're saying. And we know that we're there when we can restate back what they say to us, and then they say, yes, you've got it. That's how you know you're active listening. Um, and of course, we've said this a couple times so far, but the art of mentoring really is more as a guide is more in the high quality questions that we ask. If you tell things, you know this yourself, right? Somebody, if somebody tells you something, is it as powerful and does it stick as when you come up with it yourself? When we are the ones that have that aha moment, those tend to be much more powerful for us going forward. So it's much better for us to inspire discovery than it is to just impart lessons. That's one of the differences between mentoring and just, say, instructing. Now, the balance in the R dimension, in the role dimension, is between encouragement and challenge. So this is where we want to be encouraging and supportive and great job, way to go. We revel in our successes, and we get over our losses. But sometimes people need a little bit of a push. And that's what the mentor's there to do too. Most people underestimate their capacities. And the person that makes that the most clear to me is the example of David Goggins. I don't know if that rings a bell to you, but he's a man who went from 300 pounds to 190 pounds in a very short period of time in order to qualify for Navy SEALs training. Went through Hell Week 6 times to get through it. Got through with, I think it was a broken leg or broken something, which is ridiculous to try to do those things. He did the ultra competitions, 100 miles in Death Valley, set world record at pull-ups, all these various crazy things. He has an unusual relationship with pain. Let's just call it that. But one thing he says is that when we think we're played out, when we have nothing left, we're we're done. He says you're at about 40% at that point. So in other words, you've got a lot more to go than you think you do. And whether that's him or that's universal, I think it's generally true that we can do a lot more than we think we can. And so the role of the mentor is to be able to help somebody find that extra 5, 10, 20% and do that a little bit more. Why? Not because it's important to the mentor, but it's important to the mentee. Okay, then the O in the growth framework is ownership by the mentee. It takes two to tango. And while no matter how experienced a mentor is, you can't move their feet for them. The mentee has to be in charge of their results, their destiny. And so the mentee does own the relationship. They're the ones that have to be willing to act, reflect, stay accountable, but also drive the boat. It's not the mentor coming to the mentee. The mentee is the one getting the direct benefits, so they're the ones that need to act accordingly. Mentees need to be open and receptive. They need to own their growth. They're the ones that have the goals and challenges. They're the ones that determine whether or not we've got a victory or not. And remember also, I said it a minute ago, that mentors learn from you too. So as a mentee, you remember it is a two-way street. And so keep that in mind that as you succeed, as you take lessons and incorporate them and find your way through things, the mentor gains from that too. The balance in the O dimension, the ownership dimension, is between confidence and humility. This is true for everybody, including, of course, the mentors. We want to make sure that we think we can do things, that we're confident in our abilities. Otherwise, we might not try. I think it was Henry Ford who said that whether a man thinks he can or thinks he can't, he's right. And I think there's a lot of truth to that statement. So confidence is very important. On the other side of it, though, is humility. We have to realize that we're beings of limited perceptive power. We all have 1,440 minutes in the day, not a single minute more. And so we are dealing with the cards that were dealt, and we need to be humble in the sense that no matter how much we learn, there's a lot more to go no matter where we are. And so that means that helps us stay open. That means that we're open to feedback, and we're also bold enough to take the actions that we decide together that we're going to take. Okay, now we move on to the W. The W is working through obstacles. How many plans have you ever made that just go exactly how you thought they would? Yeah, not too many, right? So there's going to be obstacles, and we tend to have interesting attitude towards obstacles. We think of them as a problem, when the truth of the matter is that obstacles are opportunities to grow. And so, what kind of obstacles might we expect in a mentoring mentee relationship? Well, there's two different kinds. There's the kinds that are in here, in our minds, um, and in our patterns: fear, self doubt, defensiveness, whatever patterns we have that we need to break. That's our internal obstacles. And then, of course, there's external obstacles, whether it's time, we have mismatched expectations or objectives with other people. We might have perceptual differences. There could be any manner of things that we have to figure out paths around or through. And the mentor is there to help us do that. And that really is the process, is working through the obstacles. That's where the growth happens. The balance there in the W dimension is between acceptance and transformation. Some obstacles are actually really there that we want to make sure we're not wasting time and effort where an effort could actually truly be futile. There are limits, like we said in the humility piece. There are things we simply can't do. Having said that, the set that we can do is usually bigger than what we think it is. So the mentor can help us make these determinations between accepting what's real and true and what's worth it versus really going for that transformation, going for the change, going for that realizing the vision that we're really trying to do to get through. And the mentor is another set of eyes that helps us clarify our vision and determine what's really there and what's kind of there. The T in the growth framework is time and stages. So this recognizes that mentoring is not just a set thing. We do it and it's always the same. Rather, it's going to have its different phases and stages and tempos, and it's going to look a lot different in the beginning and the middle and the end. And so we want to make sure that we pay attention to going in, that there's going to be a natural rhythm. And we might have more frequent meetings in the beginning, or we get busy, or we get into a phase where that's needed. Other times we can back off. And so there's a different tempo, there's a different set of expectations, and we just want to pay attention to that. And then, of course, the pacing and the presence is affected by that as well. And we want to make sure that the intensity of the engagement is matching both the mentee's goals and readiness, but also with the mentor's availability and commitment as well. And then finally, we need to know when it's time to either transition, end, renew, pause. These things don't just stay the same. It's going to go through. So closure doesn't have to be a disconnection and an end. It's just a completion of that phase. So that's the most mature way to handle the way that these relationships tend to unfold. The balance here is between patience and urgency. So, as a mentor who's invested in the welfare of a mentee, you may feel more urgency than that person does. So, in that case, you will have to exercise your patience muscle. It can go the other way around too, where you need to impart a little bit more urgency to get them to move. Great mentors can tell the difference, can see when they're supposed to maybe back off and pause or when they should really push. The way to best do that, of course, is to sustain momentum, is to make sure we have milestones and we have clear commitments and that the person holds on to that. This is very much like great coaching. This is the elements of coaching is using that objective focused part of the relationship. Finally, the H in growth framework is honor the relationship. And so this is recognizing it for what it is, where it's mutual respect, certainly no small helping of gratitude. And again, this is sort of a two-way street here. Yes, the mentee should be thankful that the mentor is taking them under their wing, but the mentor should realize that that they're getting something out of it too, and that a successful mentoring-mentee relationship is quite a blessing for all involved. So that's mutuality and appreciation, shared effort, growth on both sides, making sure that we respect boundaries, and of course, integrity. Any kind of breach of trust is really very detrimental, if not deadly, to the mentor-mentee relationship. So we're talking about building great character here too. And then being clear on the closure. We end well, we mark progress, and we redefine rather than let relationships just fade. The balance here is between the boundaries that we were just talking about and connection. So sometimes we want, these are things that tie us together. We might have very deep relationships. Mentor and mentee can be some of the more profound relationships in our lives. And that can be hard to let go of, even when it's time to let go. So honoring the relationship is really not conflating the mentoring with the friendship or even control of outcomes. So it's really understanding what those dynamics really are is part of honoring the relationship. So that's it as a whole, the growth framework, grounding, the role of the mentor, the ownership by the mentee, working through obstacles as part of the course of how the relationship works, recognizing the time and stages, and then, of course, honoring the relationship. There are standard traps we'll just pay attention to a little bit here. First thing is mentoring is not fixing. Remember, the ownership is on the mentee. The mentor is not in a position to fix the problems or get in there and do things that they would do if they were that person. That's not how it really works. The mentor might be thinking that they have to have answers when that's really not the case. What you really want to focus on is having great questions. That's the that's where the more power is. And time invested multiplies returns. It really is a matter of growth through relationship, and that time it can't be replaced. And then trust grows through vulnerability. This means being authentic. That's really all a person can actually do, because we don't really, even if you're a great mentor, that doesn't mean you have the answers or you know exactly what the path is going to be for that person. It just means that you know what your path is, you have a great degree of clarity about that, and you're able to share it authentically. And that means being vulnerable and sharing the things that didn't go right as much as the things that did, and the less, because those are some of the more profound lessons that we learn, of course. I want to talk a little bit about fulfillment. The last few episodes have been on our white paper, Frustration to Fulfillment, and fulfillment as a rising currency in the world and the importance of it versus engagement. Engagement's been the hot word for a long time because, number one, it's important. It tethers very strongly to the kind of metrics that we as organizations care about, whether it be turnover, profitability, productivity, really many different things. So we do want engagement, but we're finding as time goes on that engagement is really not the end. It's actually a product of a deeper thing, fulfillment. Gallup's uh, poll last year of the engagement poll in the workforce found that people who feel that they're fulfilled um, are 6 times more likely to be engaged. And so the thing to think about there is that engagement is sort of like a boost, like a sugar high or a caffeine high. We're doing it, we're going. We can see motivated by the tasks. They're doing it. They feel like they're satisfied doing it, but doesn't necessarily mean that they have a great degree of well-being. And also the metrics tend to be on the companies or the organization's outcomes more than necessarily the person's. Fulfillment's a little different. That's more like a nutritious diet. So that really goes towards a greater degree of well being, fuels purpose and growth. We feel fulfilled when we feel like what we do matters and that tomorrow I'm going to be a better version of myself. And that gives us meaning and it builds our energy. And so fulfillment is really where it's at. That's what we want to start paying attention. And I'm saying that because the only real way to maximize fulfillment is growth through relationship. And that's how we define mentoring, right? So mentoring is the delivery system for fulfillment. So we need to build a mentoring culture. And that's not just a handful of mentors that are the experienced people that sort of bring the newer people under their wing. That is the dynamic that tends to emerge, but that's not the ideal. The ideal is a mentoring culture where everybody's mentoring and everybody is being mentored. And this allows us to build wisdom and when we say wisdom, wisdom is sort of knowledge, but really wisdom is knowledge in action, right? So that's the things that we do that we know we would choose rather than the things that we're doing because we're unconsciously programmed that that's what we just do and we don't know any better. So this means that the managers and really I'm going to say everybody in the ideal, but in general, both mentor and mentee. And the problem is, if we're not being mentored, we're really not growing. I mean, you can't help but grow a little, but at the pace we're talking about, and culture needs a certain amount of momentum. And then if we're not mentoring, we're not multiplying. We're losing the opportunity to elevate the levels of talent, engagement, and all the rest of it. It's of course worth it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Engagement goes way up when you have a melting culture. Retention, just the fact that I'm growing will keep me in a place. Just the fact that I'm connected to people that I think really are rooting for me, that have proven that they're on my side. Those are the things that keep people, and the opposite is what throws people out of the organization. They feel like nobody sees them, nobody cares. They're gone. productivity, of course, goes up when I feel like I'm trying to do better and learn new things, and I'm, of course, engaged. And then that growth allows me to stretch into more responsibility, which is very healthy for an organization over a long period of time. So let's wrap this up. The things I want you to take away is what mentoring is, right? It's not teaching, it's not training, it's not coaching. It can incorporate any or all of those three things, but it's really a transformational process as growth through relationship. And that's really what mentoring is growth through relationship. Engagement and fulfillment are two different things. You can be engaged, you're doing what you think you need to do, and you're putting your best effort in. A lot of people do that, but they doesn't necessarily mean that they feel fulfilled and feel like they are where they should be. And fulfillment adds those elements, that meaning and growth that keeps people really there for the long term and really invested in their not only themselves, but the effects they can make in the world through this shared enterprise. Mentoring is the art of catching people in their genius. We're all fools and idiots, and we're all capable of great, amazing, sometimes genius. And so mentoring is seeing the brilliance. And I use the word brilliance in a way. Sometimes people say, well, that's kind of a strange word to use. It's only a few people can possibly be brilliant by definition. And I suppose that's true if we're talking about a word that you would use to describe them as a whole, as a label. But that doesn't mean that people don't have their moments. And so recognizing how the person is brilliant in their unique way is a key piece. Obstacles aren't a problem. They're not a bug, they're a feature. So they aren't taking us off course. They aren't to be avoided. They are the curriculum. So we're not necessarily looking to avoid obstacles. We're looking to see which ones are in the way of where we want to go and take them on. Great mentors don't have answers. They have high quality questions. I mentioned this already. The idiot and genius, the magic happens when we can understand, where is this person's genius and how does that person manifest more of that? And fulfillment is the currency of the modern workplace. It's just not, a paycheck is not enough anymore, and it'll continually will be even more so this way. And mentoring's the path to fulfillment. So there it is. That's what I wanted to share with you today. And I hope that you found that very useful to you. If you have any questions or if you have any interest in bringing a mentoring culture to your team, that's what we're here for. The Mentoring Machine is trying to create a machine that creates certified mentors who create certified mentors, and therefore through that process elevate culture over a long period of time and create more fulfillment. In the Mentor Machine, we call that particular kind of fulfillment Alvea. So we're trying to create more Alvea in the world. So we'd love to partner with you to help your people do that, and would welcome that conversation. So thank you for listening, and may you be fulfilled, and may you both be a great mentor and have a great mentor. Thanks so much.
This has been the Eye of Power podcast with Tom Dardick. I'd like to thank you for listening. I'd also like to thank my brother, Scott Dardick, for the music and his music production. If you'd like to reach me, simply email Tom at dardickcommunications.com.